commercialization. Okay. So then this section then is going to be part B1, the impact section, which is 30% weighting. So the first question in this section then deals with credibility. So it's actually dealing with impact in your career. So the question is 2.1, credibility of the measures to enhance the career perspectives and employability of the researcher and contribution to his/her skills development. So basically what this section is asking is, what is your career goal and how does this fellowship contribute to achieving it? So you want to discuss then what you're going to achieve from all aspects of your fellowship, from the project, from the collaborations that you gain, from the transferable skills and training, from the secondments, if that was applicable, and how that's going to enable your career goals. So it's really looking to establish the impact of all that on your future career. Okay, so that's that. And again, go to the handbook. There'll be lots of info on what will be good information to put in there. So the next one, that previous one was the impact in your career. The next one is maximizing the impact of your research project. So the question is 2.2, suitability and quality of the measures to maximize expected outcomes and impacts as set out in the dissemination and exploitation plan, including communication activities. So again, this is a big question. So there are three aspects to this: dissemination, exploitation, and communication and public engagement. So dissemination is really about how you will raise awareness of your project results to other researchers and professionals in your field and other fields who will use the results of your work. So it's really things like, you know, what publications you're going to get out of your research, what presentations will you make at conferences, you know, if you produce a website, the information you put on that, you know, open access data and publications that you will create from your project. And Queen's have an open access research portal where you can deposit all of the outputs, data and publications, etc., of your project. And that's probably something that you may want to reference in your application. So these are all different ways in which you can disseminate to other professionals in your field. Another way that your project can have impact is it able to be exploited either commercially or by input into policy. So commercialization, you know, and Garth's going to talk about this, you know, things like IP protection, licensing, spin-outs, if any of those would be relevant to the outputs of your project. Policy engagement, maybe you can't commercialize, but maybe your research is relevant to policy. And just to reference, Queen's does have a Queen's policy engagement unit called QPOL, and it might, if you go into the link here on the slide when you get them, that you can find out about that, and that might be something you'd want to reference in your application as well. And finally, they want to know in this question about communication and public engagement, i.e., how will you inform the general public of the outputs of your project? And, you know, you can do this in various ways by festivals and events and school events. And I won't talk any more about it because Donna is the expert on that, and I'll allow Donna to go through those public engagement things with you. So just before we get to that, Donna's talk, just the third question on this section is the magnitude and importance of the project's contribution to the expected scientific, societal, and economic impacts. So it wants to know how your project's going to impact under those three headings. And what I would say is be realistic in the assessment of the impact. You are doing a 2-year fellowship, so make it proportionate to your project, to the fact that it's only 2 years, and make it specific to your project. So what is it that they're looking here? So what is the impact scientifically? So what new knowledge will your project create that is going to enable other people, you know, to have benefit in your research field, that's going to move forward your research field? You know, are you going to produce some quite novel knowledge that's going to be able to be picked up by other people and built on. Is there going to be an economic impact of your work? Are you going to make, let's say, an app that is going to increase productivity in a field or allow growth? Is there going to be commercialization potential of whatever you create in your work? Both of those could be economic impact. And then finally, societal impact. How is your work going to impact in general society? Is it going to help and contribute towards being able to achieve policy? For example, there's a big policy with the EU is a green and digital transition. Is your project going to enable that sort of sustainability type policy? Or another way to think about it is through the lens of the Sustainable Development Goals. And these are goals that run the full remit across societal, economic, and environmental goals. And each of those goals has different indicators and different things that they would like achieved. So it's a good idea if you go into that link and see if you can link in the outputs of your project into how it will contribute to the achievement of one of those goals. And that is a good way of how you can say that your project is contributing to society. So now, as I say, we've Donna Rogers. Donna is Public Engagement Manager for the Faculty of Medicine, Health and Life Sciences at Queen's. And I am going to hand over to Donna to talk about those public engagement activities. So hopefully, Donna, I'm going to stop sharing and hopefully you can take control of the slides now.
Mary, is it okay if you just forward them for me? My team
problem at all.
Plays games, unfortunately, when I work from home. I don't tend to trust it.
Okay, well, hopefully I can. Yes, I still have control. Is that okay? Yes. There's your first slide.
That's brilliant. Everybody can see that okay? That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're enjoying the session so far, and huge thanks to Mary for inviting me to participate. So as you can see, and you've heard from the introduction, my name is Donna Rogers and I'm the Public Engagement Manager in the Faculty of Medicine, Health and Life Sciences here at Queen's. So in the next slide, I just wanted to put a bit of context around that. I know some of you are here from MHLS, but I'm very aware that there are others here from different parts of the university. So just to give you a bit of background to that, in MHLS we have 4 academic schools. You can see them there. That's the School of Biological Sciences, the School of Medicine, Dentistry and Biomedical Science, School of Pharmacy, and the School of Nursing and Midwifery. But alongside the 4 schools, we also have 4 research centres that you can see there. So that's the Institute of Global Food Security, the Johnson Centre for Cancer Research, the Wolfson Institute for Experimental Medicine, and the Centre for Public Health. And my public engagement remit stretches across all 8 of these entities. So just again, to put that in a bit more context on the next slide, Mary. So I thought it might be useful at this point, and I know Mary has referenced it a few times already, but just to give a very short definition of public engagement at this point. There are lots of different definitions out there. I particularly like this one, which is from the NCCPE, the National Coordinating Centre for Public Engagement. And it describes it as the myriad of ways in which the activity and benefits of higher education and research can be shared with the public. Engagement is, by definition, a two-way process involving interaction and listening with the goal of generating mutual benefit. So I really like that explanation. But within my role, I wanted to personalise that to my faculty and really develop a sort of faculty engagement brand, something that encompasses the 4 schools and the 4 research centres that I talked about in the previous slide. So you can see there on the slide, this is what we ended up with. So this is our strapline and our vision. We want people to engage with us to advance planetary, public and personal health. And we do that by exciting, inspiring and influencing the public, from potential new students and hungry lifelong learners to policy influencers and decision makers, by showing and sharing what we do in ways that arouse curiosity, awaken a love of discovery, and broaden the understanding of the journey from discovery to recovery. So that's kind of what I'm always thinking of having in my head whenever I plan any of our activities. And in the next slide, what I'm going to talk about is how I try to do all of that. How do I try to embrace our vision and our strapline? And it's through a portfolio of public engagement streams that I've developed within the Faculty Engagement Hub. So you can see them there. So each of these individual bespoke streams have their own program of events, their own activities, and their own set of audiences. So for the rest of the presentation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through each of these public engagement streams and just highlight some of the showcase events in our stream to give you an idea of the sort of public engagement work that we do here in MHLS. So if we move on to the next slide, we're going to start with schools and teachers engagement. So this is probably the largest and the most developed faculty engagement stream, and if I'm being honest, it's probably the one that I enjoy the most. So you can see the explanation of schools and teachers there at the top of the slide. It's to provide central support, coordination and oversight of schools engagement activities across the faculty, to support teacher CPD and promote the Northern Ireland STEM agenda. So you can see down the left-hand side a list of some examples of activities that we do and then just some illustrative pictures. Some of the examples involve us bringing students and teachers onto campus. So for example, the UniSTEM Day, we invite a group or quite a few schools with sixth form students who are interested in the world of genetic engineering, for example. So we host UniSTEM Day in the Wolfson every March. We also host a lot of sort of widening participation taster days up on the campus, but we also do a lot of events that actually involve bringing our researchers and STEM ambassadors out of Queen's out to where they are. So during the Science Festival Schools programme, for example, we visit a lot of schools, but also during the Summer Science School. So this is an initiative that Brian Cox developed in the UK, and it's really about inspiring a younger generation into STEM courses and careers. So it's hosted in January in Northern Ireland, which is a bit of a misnomer calling it the Science Summer School, but it's hosted in January by the Mid and East Antrim Skills Council. It's hosted in Braid, and it's a full day-long event, which is kind of split into two parts. So we target year 10 students for the beginning of the day. So we have a series of TED-like talks and speakers. We also have a number of interactive workshops that students can attend. And then in the evening, we have a careers panel, which is targeted towards sixth form students and their parents. So the Mid and East Antrim Skills Council, the organisers, are very generous in their support of it. They allow me to have at least 2 TED speakers every time, at least 2 workshops, and probably at least 2 people on the careers panel as well. So that's something that we're really well. We have a lot of people at it in attendance. I'm just going to pick up on another one there is a teacher CPD program. So I've run quite a few sort of between 3 and 5 day teacher CPD programs up on Queen's on the MHLS campus. I've been very lucky to receive external bursaries for that. So the bursaries will allow the substitute teachers support back in schools, which allows the science teachers to come up onto our campus at Queen's. So during this, they come up for it's usually a thematic program, but it's talks, tours, demos, things like that. And it's really focused on them bringing back research-informed teaching back into their classrooms. So as you can see, there's always lots going on in the schools and teachers engagement stream. Which moves us on then to the second stream. Thank you, Mary. Which is for general public engagement events and activities. So this is where we take our science out of Queen's and out to the public. And you can see there, it's about identifying, facilitating and delivering a series of programmes and activities to showcase our faculty research. Hopefully by this way, we are increasing STEM capital and also the STEM aspiration of public audiences. So that's what we try to do for all of these things. You can see again a list of our example activities down the left-hand side and some illustrative pictures. So as you can imagine, a major showcase for the public engagement stream is during the Northern Ireland Science Festival, which happens every February over half term. I'm sure many of you have been involved in it already. So this is an amazing 10 days of science across the province. So there's usually around 300 different talks, visits, demos. And in faculty, we have a really prolific presence. You know, that's ranging from open days where our research centres throw open the doors of our labs. We've talks, tours, demos, things like that. We've also hosted faculty-themed immersive events where we offer the public the chance to play at scientists for the day. But we also support individual researchers who want to organise a talk to talk about their specific research or a new health intervention. So lots of different opportunities for people to get involved there. Another example you can see there is Pint of Science. So we in Faculty Engagement are the host of Belfast Pint of Science. This might be one that you're not so familiar with. This is it's an initiative that came out of two postdocs in the UK. So they started this about 10, 12 years ago. So it's a science festival that happens across the world on the same 3 nights in May. So we normally host our events in Belfast in the Black Box, or we've often used the wee bar in the Student Union as well. And it's exactly like it says on the tin. You know, we organise for a team of researchers to take turns talking about their own thematic area over the course of a couple of hours. The public buy tickets for it and they listen to these science talks, enjoying a drink in a relaxed, informal venue. So I've been hosting these now for about 4 or 5 years. We always have a great night. We always have a great turnout. It's usually a very informed audience with lots of intelligent questions. So it's good fun for both the speakers involved, but also for the audience who turn up. The final one there I want to highlight within public engagement would be Soapbox Science, which happens every other year. So we hosted Soapbox Science last year, so it won't happen again until 2026 in June. But we do this in partnership with the School of Chemistry. And this is where we invite 12 female scientists to literally stand on a wooden soapbox outside of the Ulster Museum on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. And they just engage passers-by in their research. They usually have some interactive demos or little experiments that the public can get involved in. Again, always a really fun day. We've been lucky to have good weather for the last couple of years. So fingers crossed for 2026. So again, lots of things to get involved in public engagement streams. And Mary, moving on then to the next stream, which is PPI. So this is personal and public involvement, and it might be an area that's possibly new to some of you. PPI is really about ensuring active participation of patients and the public in things like healthcare decision making, in the research, in the service and design and policy development, but it's ensuring that the services and the research are shaped by the experiences and the perspectives of those that will be directly affected by the research. So just in case you're unaware, we actually have an institutional hub for PPI now in Queen's. So it actually sits within Research and Enterprise, and it's managed by Melissa McCrudden. So a lot of my PPI work that I would have been working on over the maybe 4 or 5 years ago has actually been subsumed into this institutional hub, which is fantastic. There's a lot of peer learning from different researchers from across the university there. But within the PPI stream, within faculty engagement, I would still support specific researchers, for example, in training their PPI members or in organising PPI meetings or facilitation of workshops. And, excuse me, I also actually sit on a couple of PPI groups as a member. I thought it was very important to get a view from the other side. And that's an example of one of the PPI groups that I'm actually on that you can see there on the screen. So this is the canteen study that researchers within Queen's Public Health and Food and also researchers within the University of Birmingham are carrying out. So what they're doing is they're trying to maximise the nutrition and the well-being of secondary school students by looking at the nutritional value of their school dinners. So within their PPI research, they have obviously they want to talk to the students who are eating the school dinners at school. They also want to talk to the parents of the students who are eating school dinners. And they also have within their PPI group members of canteen staff who are cooking and serving these school dinners. So again, just bringing that back to the explanation of PPI is to make sure that their research is being shaped by the experiences of those that are going to be directly affected by it. So that's PPI. And our second last engagement stream then is business engagement. So what we do in business engagement is largely supporting the central public engagement unit in its programme of business engagement events, but also at the same time trying to build a sort of faculty specific portfolio of discipline specific partners, which are instrumental and specific to the research that goes on within MHLS. But again, to illustrate and showcase a couple of events within business engagement, within the business engagement calendar, probably the biggest event is the Balmoral Show. Possibly some of you may have attended on behalf of Queen's or even attended it as a visitor over the course of the years. So within Queen's, we take a really quite large bespoke floor space. You can see a picture of it down in the bottom corner there. So we get that bespoke floor space that's designed by Queen's. So no penguin pop-ups or anything research specific. It's all very corporately designed. But what we get is I get a quarter of that space to fill. So I organise a rolling rota of MHLF staff who would attend with demos and interactives and things that they can use to talk to visitors about the education and the research that goes on in their areas. If you haven't been to Balmoral Show, it's an experience. There are, I think, over 110,000 different visitors over the course of the 4 days of the show. So it is an amazing opportunity for researchers and staff to engage with a public audience of that size. But there are also about 600, 650 different trade stands. So again, it's a great opportunity to network and build contacts. If you haven't been, I strongly recommend it. It is exhausting, but it's also a lot of good fun, both in meeting the public, but also you get to meet lots of different people from across the university that you probably wouldn't have met beforehand. But as I said, business engagement within my engagement hub is also about building our sector-specific partners. So as you can see there from the list on the left-hand side, I would be involved in quite a few STEM-specific steering groups and boards and things like that, always looking for opportunities and networks that our research can get involved in. Then you'll be glad to hear the final portfolio stream then is Engage Research. And this is really about brokering and supporting opportunities for our faculty researchers to collaborate and co-create with the potential users of the research outputs and innovations. So whilst I have Engage Research as its own bespoke stream, I think you'll appreciate that Engage Research actually underpins all of the other streams and all of the work that we do. But again, looking at sort of the showcase examples and illustrations, within Engage Research, I would often organise training for our researchers, specifically around policy engagement, which I heard Mary mention there in her introduction. So I think this is quite a niche and a not very well understood area for researchers. It's certainly not an area that I have any expertise in myself. So I have often brought over a policy expert from the UK to do a tag team training day. So Jamie would talk about it from a UK landscape, setting the scene. But then I've invited our own public affairs manager in from Queen's, and he really puts it into the local Northern Ireland and Queen's context. So these sessions are always very well received. A lot of it goes over my head, but I do find it interesting. And then within Engage Research, I also provide some engagement support to the 2 City Deal projects that sit in our faculty, especially for the iReach project, which is developing its own public engagement suite as part of its capital project. And then I know you're going to hear from commercialisation later on in the session, but we've also within faculty developed and delivered a few enterprise and innovation events as well, really targeted towards our ECRs and our students to help them to start thinking about commercialisation of their research or other spin-out opportunities. And these have been really well supported by our own faculty success stories. So these are staff from across our schools and centres who have very successfully commercialised their research. And they've been really generous, you know, with their advice and their experience and talking to other researchers and students about how they did that. So that has been a bit of a whistle-stop tour through public engagement in MHLS. I hope it's given you a flavour of some of the initiatives and the activities that can be supported at Queen's. And although I'm embedded within MHLS, I'm very happy to chat to anyone about any ideas or suggestions that you might have within your own areas. And my contact details are actually on the first slide, Mary, if you want to circle back to that. So, you know, please feel free to reach out to me anytime. Again, happy to take any questions, but I hope you got something out of that and that you enjoy the rest of the session. So thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Donna. I think you've given a lot of information there that, you know, people would find useful in terms of the types of public engagement activities and everything that you as a faculty, but also the wider Queen's are as an institution are involved in. So that's brilliant. That's exactly, yeah, sort of information we wanted, just to give people a sense of what's out there. So thank you very much.
Again, please reach out if anyone wants any more. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Donna. So next up, we are going to have Gareth. So Gareth Caves is our commercialization manager, one of the team of commercial development team here at Queen's, and Gareth is just going to talk about different commercialization aspects of research projects. So I am going to stop sharing my slides, Gareth, and hopefully you can then come in and share your slides.
Okay, Mary, I will share.
Yes, I can see them anyway.
Good, okay. And can you hear me as well?
Do you want to put them on to slideshow mode?
Yeah.
Okay, that looks
brilliant. Is that appearing okay?
Yes, that looks.
And you can hear me. That's great. Okay, because I can't see anybody now, so I'll just keep going until I'm stopped. Okay, thank you for inviting me along, Mary. So I'm here to talk about intellectual property and research exploitation, otherwise known as commercialization. And I reside in the team here within IP and commercialization, with a focus particularly on net zero and EPS. Just looking at types of intellectual property, first of all, IP protects the value in your innovations. So patents protect inventions, trademarks protect branding, copyright protect creative works, design rights protect the appearance of a product, and trade secrets protect, and know-how database rights and plant breeder rights are another type of intellectual property. And products can usually be protected by more than one type of IP. So, for example, the Coke bottle, it's got a secret recipe, a special design for the bottle, and the brand is also protected. Registered rights and unregistered rights. Registered rights within the university tend to be mostly patents, and unregistered rights tend to be know-how or trade secrets. So that's the sort of difference between the two types of intellectual property. So patents obviously protect inventions. They give you a 20-year or up to a 20-year monopoly on your invention, but they are expensive. They're territorial in that you have to go to every country that you want to protect in. So we have to be very measured and careful about actually filing a patent application. So we'll tend to ask the question, should we, as well as can we? Because it's very important that there's going to be a financial return if you're going to file a patent. So what can be patented? Ideas of technical character, so products, devices, processes, and methods. The idea, of course, has to be novel or show an inventive step and be industrially useful. And if an idea, just a word of caution, if an idea has been publicly disclosed with a publication, it will not be deemed as new. That will be prior art and cannot be patented. So we like to put protection in place. If you want to publish, we like to put protection in place first of all before that would happen. Of course, know-how, trade secrets can be unpublished information that is also very valuable. So that may be a secret recipe or a process methodology that hasn't been necessarily published. And we can still license that know-how and those trade secrets. So there's still value there. And in fact, spin-out companies can be built on know-how and trade secrets and not necessarily go the expensive route of patenting. Just a word on the commercialization process that we go through then. It starts with your research on the left-hand side. We go through a disclosure process, which I'll touch on next, an assessment process, market discovery then, which is very important in terms of validating, and then hopefully, a licensing or spin-out commercialization of the research, which generates revenue, and that revenue comes back round to the inventors, to the schools, and to the university to fund more research and so on. So the step one is an invention disclosure form. Some of you may already have those lodged with us here in our team. So when we receive an IDF, we will do a desktop assessment of it, and we will be increasingly using AI to sort of triage invention disclosure forms as well. So that goes into our system here, and it provides you then with an IDF number, a unique reference number which you can use for applications. But the IDF should disclose all the detail on the invention. We use it for assessment, as we've said, so it has to contain a lot of technical detail on the invention, and also the contributors to the invention. It should detail that and the percentages that they contribute to that invention. The next stage would be assessment. We don't automatically, I said before, we asked the question, can we patent, and then should we patent? The should question tends to be on things like total addressable market, and does this invention have global appeal, that it can generate revenue on a global scale. So generally we'll go on the assessment. If it is a patentable idea, we'll go to a patentability opinion from one of our patent attorneys here, and we deal with all the ones that you can see. And if that opinion comes back positive, then we may move to filing if we feel that is a viable route to take. Very important then in the commercialization process is customer discovery and market discovery, and there are structured programs that run. You may have heard of iCure, which is run by Innovate UK. That's going through a little bit of flux at the minute, although it is still running, and those tend to be 8-week or 12-week programs, online, and a combination of in-person boot camps to take you through validation of your invention in the marketplace. So it allows you to, test assumptions and test your hypotheses. It allows you to go and have meaningful conversations with potential customers and investors, and really get out of the lab and into things like trade shows. There's funding available in these programs to allow you to do that, and also funding to maybe buy out your time. These programs tend to, like a team, to start to evolve. So you'll have a PI normally, and then an ECR, and then a representative from the TTO office, which is myself or some of my colleagues, and potentially then a business advisor who has some commercial experience in your area of expertise. And this opens the door then, participating in these programs is quite important because it opens the door to translational funding, such as Invest NI, proof of concept, for example. It's also important that the programs team here in Queen's, it's important to tell you that iCure isn't the only show in town. The programs team here at Queen's work very, very hard to provide other programs. So, for example, they're running a Net Zero Ignite program at the moment, which is an 8-week program for net zero technologies. They run a We Innovate program exclusively for female entrepreneurs. And they have also launched an initiative called Lab 45. Sometimes going into these programs like iCure, you can be sort of hit with a lot of terminology and new ideas, commercial ideas that you maybe haven't considered before. So Lab 45 is designed to sort of warm you up and take you through some of the terminology, some of the commercial models like Strategizer that they may use in iCure and other programs, so that you sort of hit the ground running and are able to get more out of the program. So the commercialization of IP, typically there's 3 avenues, and licensing would be by far the most common. But we also are able to sell assignments of IP rights, and then working the IP or spin out, which there's been some very successful spin outs from Queen's, and Cubis, which has been in existence for 40 years, has presided over 100 spin outs over the years, and there's still 37 of those still active. So I'll just leave you with an overview of the team. I work on the EPS faculty, and the other half on EPS is Rebecca Tucker on Triple ECS and ESIT, and Emer, who covers medical health and life sciences and social sciences. So we need more help for Emer, so hopefully that will come along in due course. The license manager, we do have help externally on licensing through James Hudson, and Maria Colligan is actually acting up into that role now under the guidance and expertise of James. Michaela keeps us all right in the admin, and of course our head of team is Matthew Wilson. So I will end there, and hopefully that has covered what you need.
Okay, that's great, Gareth. Thanks. That was a really good overview of, aspects of commercialization of research, and also what innovation programs and support is available at Queen's. So hopefully both Donna and Gareth have given, you a good sense of things that you could possibly reference in your impact section. Definitely all of the public engagement type of activities that go on at Queen's, and then also, if it's relevant to your project, that commercialization and that support that's available. So just thanks once again to you both for that.
Very welcome.
Okay. Thank you. So we're, as you might be glad, we're hitting the last third of our workshop here, and that's on implementation. So I am just going to share my screen again. Oops, I need to go to oh, here, there's a quick way to just scrolling through the slides. Okay, so hopefully you can see that slide. This is the third part then. So we've covered then the part B1, number 1, which is excellence, part B2, which is part B1, sorry, number 2, which is impact. And this is part B1, number 3, which is the quality and efficiency of implementation. And that is 20% of the total score. So really what this is covering is more sort of the implementation detail of your project. So the first question here is quality and effectiveness of the work plan, assessment of risks and appropriateness of the effort assigned to work packages. So what they want to see here is really the nitty-gritty details of exactly what the work is that you're going to do, and to highlight any risks that you see, and also to see a diagrammatic work plan of the timeline of your project. So the first thing then that you want to do here is set out your work packages. And for a 2-year sort of project, you should probably have a maximum of 3 research work packages, which should align with your objectives. You should have a work package that is specifically for the dissemination and public engagement activities, which we've just heard about in the impact section there, and then a work package which deals with the project management and training activities. So as I said, make sure that your work packages align to your objectives, and also that they align with the methodology that you set out in section 1.2 of the excellence section. So just giving you an example here of the way that you might outline a work package. You can give what objective it aligns to. You would give its title, give how long it runs to, what months it spans. Give a list of the tasks that you will carry out in that work package and the timing of those tasks. Then you should reference the deliverables or the outputs that are going to come out of your work package, when they'll be delivered. Talk about each of those outputs. You know, an output is something tangible. It's like a report, a paper, a data set, etc. You should also reference the milestones. So milestones and deliverables are sometimes can be confused. So a deliverable is something concrete and tangible, like a report. A milestone is a key point in time. So it's a way to allow your project progress to be monitored. And it's a key point in your project, for example, the achievement of a key result that allows you to move on to the next stage of your project. It can also be a point at which a decision has to be made. For example, if you are trialing a few different technologies and you decided to go with one technology, it would be the point at which you would take that technology forward. So it's important to have those outlined as well. And then risks, it's important to have those. You could include them here in your work package description, or you can have a separate section, and that's what I have on the next slide. So risk analysis, very important to include. Research is inherently risky, but you should be able to show that you're aware of those risks, the possible impacts that they'll have on your project, and how you're going to mitigate or decrease the likelihood or decrease the likely impact of those risks. So you want to state a few of your key risks. Say the degree of their impact on the project, the likelihood of them occurring, and what you'll do to reduce the risk. And importantly, do make your risks project specific and realistic. I oftentimes will read risks and think this could apply to any project anywhere. It's like recruitment of staff, etc. Do show that you have an awareness of the riskiness of your proposed novel research and how you're going to deal with that. So you could have a scale for impact on your project, let's say from 1 to 5. So your impact, if this risk occurred, could be 4. The likelihood of that risk occurring could be 1. And here's how I'm going to mitigate if it does occur. So it gives the evaluators confidence that you're aware of the risks in your project, and that if those risks do occur, you have a way of dealing with them. If you don't address risks, they will assume that you do not have an awareness of it, and that the whole project could just fall over if some of these risky things do happen. Okay, so you should have a diagrammatic work plan. Mostly people use these charts called Gantt charts. And really what that does is it gives a visual representation of your project. So along the top, you'll have the months 1 to 24, and along the sides, you'll have your tasks, your work packages and your tasks. And then you will delineate the extent of each task by a color code is generally what's used. And then you can see, you can mark out your milestones and your deliverables and exactly what month they will occur for each of your work packages. Do make sure that, as I said, that this all aligns with your descriptive work package and with the methodology section where you described your methodology and work package. Okay, so the next part of this is so you've talked about your methodology and everything. The next question is the quality and capacity of the host institutions and participating organizations, including hosting arrangements. So really what they want to see here is a description of the research group that you're going to and how you're going to be integrated into that research group. And there is a lot of good hints and tips for what they want in this question in that Marie Curie handbook that I referenced. You could also reference wider QUB support services. And I've just given you an example here of some of the different support services that are available at QUB. For example, There's an international staff support that will help with visa and advice. You know, you've just heard, you know, I'm part of the research development team. You've just heard from Gareth and the commercialization team. So you could reference some of this support, but it is primarily about the research group and how you would be integrated into it. So then there's also, they want you to discuss the quality of the participating organisation. Now, there is a section in Part B2, Section 5.2, which asks you to talk about the facilities and the expertise and the infrastructure. So that's going to overlap with this section. Again, the majority of the discussion in this section should be on the research, the facilities available, the expertise, the quality of your hosting group. However, I have given some wider information here about Queen's that you could choose if you think it's relevant to include in that section as well. So then that concludes Part B1. The next section is Part B2, and I'm not spending very much time on this. I've just summarized because it's definitely an easier section than Part B1. So I've just summarized the different sections that are in Part B2. So Part B1 is its own form and it's uploaded. And then Part B2 also has a template form. You fill all the different sections out in that template and you also upload it to the application. So the first section is the CV. Use the template provided. Basically, you know, show you the skills and experience commensurate with your career stage. Convince the evaluators you're the person at this career, and obviously highlighting any sort of prizes or marks of recognition that you've received. Section 5 then is the one that I just said. It overlaps with that previous section on quality of your hosting of the participating organisation. They want you to describe the key research facilities, infrastructure and equipment. So there is a one-page limit to this. So just don't overlap with the information you provided in the previous section. Do try and talk about different things in both sections. They do also ask you as part of this about previous and current involvement in EU-funded research and training programs. I have outlined here for the institution our success rates in previous Marie Curie competitions. If you are writing for a particular department, you probably want to, if there's any particular successes in that particular department, to highlight their success with Marie Curie. This is institutional specific or institution-wide information here. 6 is an additional ethics information, anything that couldn't be included in Part A. 7, again, additional information security that couldn't be included in Part A. And finally, the final section in Part B2 is the environmental considerations in light of the Marie Curie Green Charter. So basically what they're asking you here is sustainability. It's the environmental sustainability of your project. And to highlight what exactly you're going to do in your project in order to sort of minimize the environmental impact of your project, how you're going to carry out your research, and you know, how you're going to deal with waste or travel, etc. So this should be project focused. What I've done here is I've given you some links. Queen's is there's a big emphasis on sustainability at the university at Queen's. This first link here is to the QUB sustainability, to the sustainability team at Queen's, and gives lots of information. We are a signatory to the UKRI Concordat for the environmental sustainability of research and innovation. And that Concordat lays out various things that we need to comply with. So for procurement, for travel, for how to deal with waste and things like that. So that's a good document to look at if you want some hints and tips for what Queen's has signed up to and what you could put into that section. And then just to let you know, we, as part of that UKRI Concordat, we do have 68 laboratories that have been accredited for laboratory efficiency assessment framework, which is basically sort of looks at the whole laboratory and make sure that it's set up as with as much environmental sort of consideration of environmental sustainability as possible. And I've also just given you also there the link to Queen's Net Zero plan. So it's just to give some background. As I say, that section should be project focused, but these should be good resources for you to be able to link into. So you'll be happy to know we're getting to the end. There's just some links here to useful resources. This is the handbook that I've talked about and really recommend. There's the work programme. You'll find the call documents under the Marie Curie scheme in the EU funding and tenders portal. Just to highlight, as a team, we have seed funding. So this is for travel to QUB for fellows to help with the preparation of a Marie Curie application. It's £500 within Europe and £1,000 outside of Europe. And if you are interested, please get in contact with one of our team. So just again, this is the team. We're very happy to help with any queries, provide support to you with your application. We want to do as much to make your applications as competitive as possible so that we can raise our success rate in the Marie Curie scheme. As I said, it's a great way to attract global expertise to Queen's. So please get in contact with us. We're very happy to to provide as much support as possible. So that is the end of the presentation. So I think we have scheduled to 12:30, so we have 8 minutes for questions, but happy to run over if needed. So I'll just stop sharing here and